All right. Welcome, everybody, to this week's amazing community call. This is June the 6th. I am Sudo, aka Simon. I decided that I'm going to be introducing myself every time because I always forget that. So that's what I'm starting with, your host for today. Now, as you know, community calls are changing quite a bit. The name is also going to change, which you will find out about at the end of this call. I would like to ask for your feedback on one of the new name ideas that we have. But in general, we're branching out to not only just update you guys about NIM-related things, all the updates that are happening around NIM and bringing NIM team members on these calls, but also, as you probably noticed from previous calls, we're also branching out to bring people from other projects, other companies, and just individuals who are also doing great work in the privacy space. And of course, in line with this trend, we will probably already know from the announcement, today I have a very special guest with me from a very special company, who's Hanna Bozakov from the press office of Tuta, formerly known as Tuta. How is it going, Hanna?
Very good, thank you. Very happy to be here today.
It is exciting to have you on. I can't wait to find out about the ongoings of Tuta. Now, before we get started with our conversation, I want to say the usual housekeeping items. So first of all, if you're new here, so if you're maybe from the Tuta community, then warm welcome. This is the NIM community. We have a lot of overlap with Tuta. We're working on the same broader vision. So a warm welcome to you guys. As always, you can leave your questions. We're keeping a close eye on both the live chats, so that's the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat. But also, if you want to preserve your privacy and not log in with your Google account / YouTube account, then you can go to the NIM Matrix server and ask your questions there. We're also keeping an eye on the NIM Matrix server. Now, of course, this is YouTube, so we're in the realms of our algorithmic overlords. So please drop a like and a comment and all of that good stuff so that other people may also find this video and maybe find it helpful. And maybe we can get rid of solutions like YouTube and come up with something more privacy preserving in the process. But with all of that said, I think it's time for us to get started with our conversation. Well, Hanna, welcome. I'm really excited to have you on, and also really excited to find out about Tuta. So please introduce yourself and what should people know about you and Tuta?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I'm one of the longest team members in Tuta. We are by now 30 people, but we launched more than 10 years ago with Tutanota, as you mentioned. And back then, we were the first encrypted email provider worldwide. Our goal is to make encryption easy as normal emails. So in Tuta, everything is encrypted by default. Because our focus is on security, privacy, but also on open source. And I think we will dive into that later a bit more. At Tuta, we see ourselves as freedom fighters. So we fight for privacy with technology. And when we launched Tutanota, the idea was more, it was shortly after the Snowden leaks. So the idea was more to protect people from state surveillance. But as you know, things have changed. The web has developed. And by now, the biggest trackers online are Google, Meta, and all of these big platforms. So now our goal is still the same. We are still fighting surveillance, but not just from state organizations, but also from corporations who just want to gather up data. And we want to build an ethical alternative. So a product where people know my data is kept secure, it is encrypted, it is safe, no one can touch it. It is a bit like self-hosting, but you don't have to do the self-hosting part. But because of the automatic encryption, it is just as secure. That's what we want to do, are doing with Tuta.
Excellent. Hopefully, if someone is in the NIM community and you're just tuning into this community call and you never checked what Tuta is, now you understand why they are on this community call and why we brought Hanna to you guys, because there's a whole bunch of overlap in what you just said, in your mission and the NIM mission. Before we jump into all of that and the open source and all of that good stuff, I noticed that you used to be called Tutanota, but now it's been shortened to Tuta. So let's start maybe with the old name, what it means, and also if you can say something about the name change. Why did you guys change your name?
Yeah, Tutanota is actually Latin. So Tuta means secure and nota means message. It is a bit brainy and also a bit difficult to spell. So because we are an email service, people had problems logging into their accounts because they would say Tutanova or Tutanova or whatever. And they just couldn't remember the spelling of it. So that we tried to think of a better name. We had a huge brainstorming session and lots of ideas, brilliant ideas also, but it was whichever idea we came up with, it was impossible to get the domain. And of course, as an email provider, you also have to have the domain, because otherwise you can't have an email address with that name. So there needs to be an overlap. So luckily, and this is a bit of a funny story, we knew the domain Tuta was owned in Brazil. And we also have a couple of employees coming from Brazil. So then 2 years ago in the summer, one of our employees, he went back to Brazil to visit family. And I was like, you know what? Now is the time. You have to meet this guy with the Tuta domain and convince him to give it to us. And yeah, they sat down for a nice lunch. And after that, we had the domain tuta.com. And that's why we decided to change to Tuta. And it also fits our mission, because Tuta, of course, is still Latin, secure, but also it is in Esperanto, it means whole and complete. And our aim with Tuta today is not just provide secure email, but become an encrypted collaboration service, so that you can do all of the things you are doing maybe with Google at the moment, like Google Docs and Google Calendar and all of this. You can do it encrypted with Tuta. So obviously then Tuta Nota, being an email service only, wasn't the right name anymore. So that's why we changed.
Wait, so you guys also have docs? I never realized. Like document management?
That's we don't have docs yet. But it is definitely something we are keeping an eye on, and we want to enable people to communicate confidentially. No matter what the task, you should be able to do it with end-to-end encryption, without any hassle, without any extra steps. And that's what Tuta has to be. We are doing that for lots of tasks already, but not all of them. So but now we have a brilliant short domain, and we are growing from there, I guess.
Excellent. I really love the name, and it looks like the community, the name community, also agrees with me. Yeah. Now let's jump into the one of the many overlaps that we have, which is of course in our philosophy, right? If my understanding is correct, on your side also, which you also already mentioned, both the clients and also on the server side of things are all open source software, which is also true for NIM, of course. Why is this? Why did you choose to go with the free and open source model?
Yeah, at Tuta, all clients are open source, so not the server side yet. We have to be fully transparent here, because if you want trust, if you want to build a product that is focusing on security and privacy, you also have to be transparent and honest. So all clients are open source, and this is important because the entire encryption takes place in the client. And because of that, when you use the Tuta client, all the data is encrypted. You can verify that, and you can be sure that our servers never see the plain text data, because it has been encrypted on your phone before that. So we are removing a level of trust there, and people can just check that the data is encrypted. This is important. For instance, other companies like Apple, they always claim that the iMessages are encrypted, but it's not open source. And yeah, there's the saying, if it's not public, it didn't happen. So how would you check that this is actually encrypted? Because you can't see the code, you can't see how it's done. Whereas with us, you can check the code on GitHub. You can make sure that the same code that is published on GitHub is running on your device. And then you will know it's secure. It's also, I think there was a question already, like how can you verify that the code on GitHub is actually running on your device? This is a very good point, very good question. This is not possible on the web client, because the web client loads unless you build it yourself, the web client loads the code every time you load it, and then you would need to check. But if you use the Tuta desktop client, for instance, which is free, it checks that it checks the signature on GitHub, which verifies that the same code that is published on GitHub is also running on your local Tuta desktop client. And this is very nice, because then you don't have to be techie to know that it is working. It's just working. And as to the server part, we really would love to publish a server open source, because of our philosophy, of our standing. But the server we are running right now, we have more than 10 million users. So you can imagine this server is not just sitting in some cellar being one box. It is a huge, complex server. and it would be too difficult for anyone to self-host this server structure. And that's why it's not open source, but we do plan, or our long-term wish is to have a small server that you can put into your cellar or wherever you want to put it for self-hosting, and this one would be published open source. Yeah.
So now that you mentioned server, I think that's a really good segue into my next question, which is that Tuta, my understanding is that you guys are running your own infrastructure. So can we talk a little bit about this? So where is your infrastructure located, and also importantly, why did you guys decide to run the infra in-house?
Yeah, it's again a question of trust. And when it comes to security and privacy, you always have to look at trust. Who do I trust? What trust is required? So if you, as a secure service like ours, who's encrypting all our data, if we were using Amazon or Google to host our data, then then I would say the level of trust also goes to these corporations that we ourselves do not trust. So how could we do this to our users? That's why we decided to not host the data there, but build up our own infrastructure, which is running in Germany completely under strict data protection laws. And this is also very important to us because it is important if the government, what level of access the government has, because as a company you have to follow requests, you have to be reliable, and you can't just say no, I'm not giving you the data, because then the government will just shut you down as a service for all users, which also you can't do as a reliable service. So that's why we decided to build our own infrastructure. And what is important then is, to us, the most important part is that IP addresses and metadata cannot be leaked to Amazon or Google, which would, but this data would be leaked to them if we were hosting the data in the cloud. So obviously we would not do that, because you know yourself as NIM how important metadata and IP addresses are, and how much you can learn from this kind of data. Even though we are encrypting all the texts and all the attachments and all of that, there's still things like email addresses we simply can't encrypt because of how the email system is set up. So then Amazon would know the entire email conversation you had, with whom you're communicating, when, and even though we are also encrypting subject lines as metadata, which some companies are not encrypting yet, there's still too much data that would be leaked. That's why we decided to host it ourselves. And the technicians also said they want to be dependent on these large platforms, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, because if they changed anything in their requirements, we would need to follow. We would need to make sure we're still compatible. And they said this could bind too many resources that we prefer spending on our own development, on our own improvement of Tuta. Yeah. And one last point, which I think is maybe, in my opinion, it's not what the technician said, but in my opinion, it's the most important one. We simply don't want to give any money to Amazon or Google or Microsoft, because we do not want them to benefit from our users. We want to build an ethical alternative. We cannot feed the monster, so to say.
We'll
Yeah.
talk about the monster in a bit. I have a few questions planned about the monster. Very good point. I totally agree. In the case of NIM, of course, the community is operating the infrastructure. So can it count as self-operated or no? I don't know. You guys decide. But moving on, because I have another question about your infrastructure, because while doing my research for this call, I found out that you guys are running it on 100% renewable energy, which is no mean feat. So I'm not sure about the scale of this. But how did you guys pull it off? And what is the source of energy for this?
Yeah, we use, of course, German energy providers with a green plan. So this is fully renewable energy, and it's a mix of wind, solar, and water. And our servers, our own infrastructure, these are stored in certified German data centers. And it was actually, when we wanted to switch to green energy, the data centers were very reluctant. They did not want to do that because obviously the contracts are more expensive for the companies. so it took a bit of convincing, but yeah, it was important to us. So we convinced and nagged and not the data centers. And I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, they finally enabled us to switch to green energy, which is great because it's just something that we are passionate about and that we want to, do our share in that regard. And for the office, actually, we are going a step further. We are using an energy provider who also invests into building new renewable facilities. Because, yeah, we all know we have to get down to zero, and it can only happen if we keep investing and keep improving. It's a bit like building Tuta Mail. We keep improving and we keep investing, and the same happens, yeah, with our energy.
Yes, and even with the ongoing investment, it's going to be a tricky target to hit. So yeah, we should stick together and and make sure it actually happens. All right, my next question is a bit of a pivot. Actually, one of the other things that that I saw.
Sorry, I'm not a native speaker. What is a pivot?
A pivot is when you so literally it means doing this. It's like flipping, like
Yeah.
yeah. And a pivot is in conversation it means changing topic from
Okay.
one to the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about
So
that.
no, it's totally fine. So yeah, the next question is a bit of a pivot, which is about zero knowledge. So I noticed on your website as I was looking through your stuff that at least you list for your calendar service that you're using a zero knowledge tech. Now this is very exciting, of course, for NIM, because we're also one of the most fundamental aspects of NIM, the network itself, and also NIM VPN, which is going to be the first use case of NIM VPN. Is completely dissociating users' usage, so what they are doing with NimVPN, how they are using the network, and their traffic and all of that stuff, from their payment information, from any private information that may get to us as personally identifiable information. So zero knowledge technology, not only for this, of course, but also for many other purposes, is going to be quite the revolution. It already is quite the revolution in terms of privacy preserving technologies and methods. So I just wanted to ask, what are you using zero knowledge technology for? What kind of zero knowledge tech you're using, and just generally, please talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, zero knowledge, as you mentioned, is very important because when you're using a service, this service always has certain information about you. Even though you're encrypting all the data, you at least have to connect to the service, and this gives them your IP address and things like this. And zero knowledge means removing as much of this data as possible. For instance, we have a strict no logging policy, so we do not log IP addresses in general. And for the calendar, it's very special because in the calendar, you do not need to, exchange emails, for instance, which are hard to do zero knowledge. I'll go into this a bit later. But usually a calendar, even if it's encrypted, it sends you notifications, event reminders. And most services do this via email. And the minute you use email for event reminders, you're not zero knowledge anymore, because the email can only be sent if the server is involved. And if the server is involved, the server knows something. That's just, what it is. So we have built an event reminder that is stored when you set up an event in the Tuta calendar. The reminder is stored locally on your device and then triggered from there, which means there's no involvement of the server. It is completely zero knowledge. We can't know, of course, we can't know what is happening or who you're meeting with because this is already encrypted, but we also can't know when you are having events because the notification is happening locally on your device. And as I said, for email, this zero knowledge part is more tricky because of that's just how the email system is set up, because you need an email address to deliver the email to someone's mailbox. That's just how this system is set up. And the email address in that case is the metadata that you simply cannot encrypt, that you simply cannot make zero knowledge. It's like sending a letter. It has to have an address. Otherwise, the recipient will not get it. But what is nice about Tutor Mail is when you send a password protected email. So you can encrypt emails to a Gmail address, and part of the encryption is done with a password. There's more encryption done in on the under the hood. But the important part is the recipient will need this password to decrypt the email. And when they do this, then Gmail only gets a notification email, but not the actual email. So whenever you send a password protected email via Tuta, you make sure that not only all the data is encrypted, but also that this email does not hop via different servers, via the email system, but just stays on the Tuta servers and is just, accessed from the recipient directly, which does not leak metadata outside of Tuta. There's still some metadata on our servers in that case because it's email, but at least it's not leaked outside of Tuta, which is quite nice.
That's an excellent point. And since we're doing really well on time so far, I wanted to stop and discuss this part a little further. So my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'll just try to summarize what you just said, is that due to the lack of like system level integration into like the email protocol itself, right? End-to-end encryption is a tricky business, right? You have to put something on top of the existing protocol to make emails end-to-end encrypted. Why is it not in focus? Hello? Okay, now it's in focus. So can you already described what happens with an email which is exchanged with someone who doesn't have a provider which supports end-to-end encrypted emails. For example, on Gmail, you would get not the email itself, but a notification that, hey, here's the email, here's a password, here's where you can access your email. This, of course, people hate usually because anything that is more complicated or takes longer than the what people are used to, then people just don't like that. So, but obviously there's no other way to do this when it comes to email. So let's talk about this a little bit. What are the other constraints? Maybe whether with other end-to-end encrypted providers, do you have more seamless integration, or is it only Tuta to Tuta where you have native integration of end-to-end encryption? And also maybe let's talk about the protocol itself. So why does email not have end-to-end encryption built in? It's pretty basic. It's 2024, right? So maybe what could we do to have is it IMAP, and what is the other email protocol? I can't remember the name. What would it take to yes, that POP3? What would it take to amend those with end-to-end encryption? Is that in progress? Are you guys involved, or?
Okay, these are lots of questions. So
sorry, many questions. Apologies for that. Yeah, apologies.
Yeah, many questions all in one. I will start with the first one with I think it was encrypting to externals. But I don't remember what exactly it was. Sorry.
Yeah, so you already walked through one of the major sort of hurdles that people need to jump through, which is the notification.
Yeah, what we
Are
do
there
to remove these hurdles, right? How do
Yes.
we get more people to use encryption? Yeah, that's a very good point actually, because of course it is a hassle to put in a password, and I completely agree there. But one thing about Tuta that is good is that when you do this for the first time, you can store the password. And then the next time you just click the link on your Gmail notification and you enter the entire conversation. Whereas on our competitors, you always have only one email there. In Tuta, you get the whole conversation and you can write back and forth in the encrypted way. And then what is even more important when you use this feature is that by using it, you kind of nudge your friends to also switch to Tuta, because then this password is not necessary anymore. You can simply, enter and encrypt everything. And then it's as easy as in Gmail. If everybody uses it, it's like Signal. Of course, it is easier for a chat messenger to have end-to-end encryption because everyone has to use this messenger to write to you. So then it's easy. It's the same thing in Tuta. As long as everyone uses Tuta Mail, then it's easy. And that's the goal that we are trying to achieve. And as to the question, to make it more broad, to make it more general, the problem with email is simply that it is so old. And these protocols you were referring to, like IMAP and POP3, they are, first of all, they are not very efficient. They are not very fast. And it is also very difficult to change anything within them, because you would need all email providers in the world, even people who are self-hosting, to change as well, to update as well. Otherwise, it's not compatible anymore. I think we've seen this with the vulnerability in was it SMIME or PGP? There was one vulnerability where you had to update the protocol, and of course, most like huge providers, they all did this, but you never know then when sending an encrypted email if the other side has done this upgrade. I think it was with SMIME. I don't remember the name, which is a pity. Would be nice because it was like 4 years ago and it was pretty big. The eFail, I think it was called eFail, um, and this was a pretty big scandal because you were thinking you're sending an encrypted email, but then if the other side didn't upgrade, didn't fix the bug, then then the encryption would not have worked. And
So
that's the
yeah, it's
problem with it's a federated system. If it's federated, you have to upgrade all systems.
yes,
That's the
there's a beauty.
complexity in email.
There's a beauty to federated systems, but of course, this is one of the major downsides what you're describing. And as to the age, while you were speaking, I quickly looked up the age of email. So the first email was sent in 1971. That was around, God, that was 50 years ago. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
getting old. All right, so yeah, it was over 50 years ago. The first email. I don't know what protocol that was a protocol that was sent on, but yeah, email is not a fresh chicken to say the least. That's interesting. So you would say that there's not a real chance of achieving change in this regard, right?
Well, when we started building Tuta Mail, which was Tuta Nota back then, we built it the other way around. Like we built the encryption protocol first and then put all the functionalities on top. Whereas email providers like Gmail or Outlook, they are doing it the other way around because, of course, they had email like 20, 30 years ago. And then for them, of course, it is much more complicated to implement end-to-end encryption on top because it's the other way around. And yeah, I'm not very optimistic, I'm afraid. No, it would be great. I would love it to happen, but then again, there's also the push from politics towards the opposite, towards denying citizens real encryption, real security. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not optimistic in that regard.
We'll talk about that also in just a little bit. But before we do, I have one more question for you because I also noticed from your comms that that you guys are the first email provider to bring quantum-proof encryption. We also have a community question about this from Kaled. Hi, Kaled, and thanks for the great question. So, how is Tuta managing post-quantum encryption? Let's talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit because it's a big deal, right? It's quantum computers are
Yeah.
coming; they are becoming more and more viable, and encryption is only as valuable, or it only serves as much as it protects against, right? With the quantum computer, cracking capabilities become way more sophisticated, and something that right now with current technology would take a really long time to crack. May take significantly less time to crack on a quantum computer. So this is important. A lot of people are sleeping on it. They shouldn't. So let's talk about what Tuta is doing in terms of quantum post-quantum encryption.
Yeah, you're very right. Sorry, you're very right. They shouldn't be sleeping on it. So from our estimates, it could be only like 5 years until quantum computers are here. It could also be longer. No one knows. But in my opinion, once the AI hype is done, there will be another quantum computer hype. I'm very sure about that. And once this hype takes off, then it will be quantum computers will be here very fast because, as you see with the AI hype, once the big tech companies start, tackling each other and try to be the first ones, they invest so much into this that it could happen in a couple of months, actually. So yeah, we shouldn't be sleeping on it, definitely. And actually, we at Tuta, we have started with a research project 4 years ago. It was called PQ Mail, which is post-quantum mail. And back then it was just, we were creating a prototype where we could send post-quantum encrypted emails in this prototype. And then last year we launched another research project together with the University Wuppertal here in Germany, which goes into not just post-quantum encrypted email, but also post-quantum encrypted data storage and file sharing. And within this project, we have finalize the prototype. So post-quantum encrypted emails are now possible in Tuta Mail. At the moment, only for new accounts. So if you don't have a Tuta Mail account already, now's the chance. You can register for free and you'll have quantum safe encryption. It's the first provider that offers that. And the problem with encryption in terms of quantum computers is not symmetric encryption. So if you encrypt your data with, I think, AES 256, then it's good, it's secure, it's stored on your computer in an encrypted way that quantum computers can't crack. But as soon as you use asymmetric encryption, which is PGP, for instance, to encrypt emails, then quantum computers will be able to crack the code because it is just a large computing operation that needs to happen to unlock the data. And this is what quantum computers can do really quickly. So then the encryption is pointless. And the problem right now is that there's already this strategy of harvest now data. I don't know if you have heard about it, but it means that state organizations, the three-letter agencies, they are already harvesting encrypted data because they know in a couple of years they will be able to decrypt this data and then use it. And then, I don't know, monitor everyone who before thought their data was securely encrypted and securely
Exactly.
transmitted.
Let me spell out, guys, what that means if you haven't heard about it already. So it's not just a matter of you protecting your current communications in a quantum proof way, but your existing communications. So what you're sending your friends today is being saved somewhere in a huge database. Like there are these. Usually they work with tapes. Those are the most dense storage materials. They just take and save all of your communications, with the hope, that once quantum computing becomes ubiquitous and much more available than it is today, they can decrypt all of it. So your communications being protected in a quantum-proof way does not only count today, right, or like in the future, but also today and going back even. So this is pretty important, just so everyone understands. Now, shifting gears a little bit, because we talked about regulations, right? This is a tricky subject. I like to dig into this with our guests, because you are in Germany, right, which is in the EU. My question will be about both of those, basically. So, as we like to say here at NIM, this is a quote from one of our advisors and longtime friends, Bart Pernille, who was on these community calls before. So maybe we can drop a link in chat if you guys want to check out that conversation. He's a cryptographer and also a major voice in the fight for privacy. What he likes to say is that the EU has two faces when it comes to privacy. Which I really resonate with and agree with. So on one hand, in your blog, Hanna, there's a recent blog post about the German government publishing a law to guarantee right to encryption, which sounds like really, really great, right? That's a major step in the right direction. And also on the regulatory perspective, on the EU side, we have GDPR, which is completely unique, and it's also trend-setting in the world of privacy regulation, and it's a major step in the right direction. We can debate, whether it was effective or not, but definitely the intent was there to do something great. But on the flip side of that, in Germany, my understanding from NIM node operators is that it's legally pretty challenging, if not impossible or risky, to run Tor exit relays in Germany, because you're legally responsible for whatever is happening on your network, for example, which is unique to Germany, is my understanding, at least within Europe. And then, of course, on the flip side of GDPR, on the EU side, right, we have the proposed client-side scanning, which is absolutely insane, right? It could actually mean the end of end-to-end encryption as we know it, if client-side scanning is forced on providers like yourselves or providers like us, right? So this is, I think, a really tricky subject, and I would really like to hear your opinion on, what is it like to operate in Germany and in the EU broadly, from like a privacy and regulatory perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I will start from small to big, so from Germany to EU. Being from Germany, I can say Germany is a very good place because of the discussion. Like from the outside, it sometimes looks like Germany is not the best place for data protection because there is a very viral privacy community, a very loud privacy community who always rings the alarm bells very loudly whenever the politicians are trying to do something bad. And this is then going public, and then everybody from the outside is seeing, oh my God, what is Germany doing? That is so bad in terms of privacy. But in fact, because they are ringing the alarm bells so loudly, these initiatives, these laws usually never pass because of the public outcry, because of the pressure on the politicians. And this is quite a good thing about Germany, and it's probably also because of our history. Like you will know that we've been separated until like 35 years ago, and in the eastern part of Germany there was mass surveillance going on. Like everyone was being monitored by by the government, and it was, if you think that this happened today this monitoring would have been much easier. Like back then it was really neighbors watching on neighbors, kids telling to the officials what their parents were talking about, things like that. But today you could just, put a mic in the phones and then listen to people what they are doing. You wouldn't even need kids or neighbors spying on others anymore. And because of that history, because it is very recent to us, we all feel like data protection is really, really important, especially from the state. So that is why the community is so loud, and why you always hear about every initiative going on in Germany, whether good or bad, just because it's going to the public. But for instance, because of that, we do not have data retention laws, which, for instance, Switzerland has. But in Germany, we do not have it for email. So which is really, really good, because data retention basically means that the provider needs to retain any email data for a couple of months, a couple of years, in case the government asks for it. We do not have to do this because the community was allowed. The government tried to pass a law like that, but in fact, email was taken out of it, email specifically, because it's a form of confidential conversation. There's also, if you write an email to your lawyer, that is protected legally, because it is a special kind of communication, so it can't be monitored. And this is why email was taken out of that law, which is really, really a good thing. And this is why I think Germany is a very good place for data protection. But as you said, the EU brings other challenges, because that's also what politicians do. If they can't pass laws in the country, they try to go to a broader level, hoping to find more support there. Or, the outcry then is not loud enough because other countries do not care so much about it, like Germany does. This is also why we call this new EU law chat control, because the officials want to control what you are talking about on your phones, on your computers. And yeah, again, we are fighting against this. We are trying to be part of this loud community. We are writing open letters, not just on EU level, but also to German legislators, to make them push against chat control. And for instance, Germany's position is still against the compromise that is in discussion right now. Yeah, but it is a challenge. It is like EU politics is also very complicated. For instance, where the EU Council is in favor of chat control, but the EU Parliament is against it. And now we are having a vote in the Parliament. So hopefully it will die again and again and again, because I'm sure politicians will also bring it up again and again. Yeah, but for us, it's important to keep the pressure up, to keep fighting these kinds of legal initiatives, because they will keep coming, and we have to make sure to also, yeah, do the opposite, to make them fail, keep them so that they keep failing. Yeah, so right now we are in a very good position. No one knows what the future brings, but that's the case with any country. Also, other countries usually like to copy legislation from the European Union. So this is then more important that we fight against chat control, so that other countries will not say, oh, now the EU has it, so why don't we have it too? I think it is a very dangerous path, because it's actually what China and Russia are doing, and we see what it does to a society, to a community, if you're monitored 24/7. And I really would not like this to see, because privacy is also about freedom. And we should not just give this away because the government tells us it's more secure to not have privacy. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, guys, just a quick note. So, as I mentioned, we had Bart Pernille on a community call earlier. Please, Salazar, if you could drop a link to our conversation with him, that would be great. Oh, yeah, there it is already. So, the state of online privacy. Now, he was involved in various capacities in legislation and fighting legislation in the EU. So, if you want a bit of an insider's view into how these things work in the EU, like lawmaking system. That Hanna was talking about, make sure to check that conversation, because it really is. You can't really see some kind of a big malicious group, twirling their mustaches in like smoke-filled rooms. It's not like that at all. It's a combination of incompetence. It's a combination of not asking for expert opinion in time before something is proposed, and a whole bunch of other things. It's really frustrating. So I will give you a trigger warning before you watch it, but make sure to watch that episode, because there's a whole bunch more detail about this side of things. And I agree with you, of course, Hanna. And more on what privacy is in a bit. You said freedom. It's also many other things. More in our privacy related philosophy in a bit, but before that, so we just talked about the requests providers like yourselves or like NIM, for example, with NIM VPN may receive. These are very different topics, of course. We do VPNs, which are networks, and you guys are doing email, which is a whole different set of regulatory like conditions. But do you guys? So does this mean that email does not have the retention policy or retention requirement? Do you not get any requests to share information, user information from governments at all? Or if you do get them, how do you handle these? But we also have a community question asking the same.
Yeah, that would be nice if you didn't get requests. Of course we do. The good thing about Germany is that all requests must pass via German, not lawyer, what's the word, judge, via German judge. So the government can't just say, give me data and you have to do it, but a judge verifies that this request is legally sound. And then when we get such a request, we of course check again if it is legally sound. And it isn't always, things slip through. There might be not a law basis, or easy things like they misspell the email address, things like that. So yeah, we do get requests and we have to hand out data if the request is valid. If the court order is valid, we have to hand out requests, but we can only hand out encrypted data, because even if you receive an unencrypted email, once it hits our servers, it's encrypted. And then when we get a request afterwards, we can only hand it out encrypted, because we do not have the decryption key that is owned by the user with the password. They can decrypt their stuff, but we do not have their password. And we do also, with this said, transparency is also very important. So we do publish everything in our transparency report. Actually, I will need to update ours soon. Yeah, I think by the end of the month. I have a couple of days left. So we publish all of that in our transparency report so that people can check what requests we can get, what data we hand out. And also we publish how many requests we get and how many we hand out, how many we comply with, because it's not all of them. We don't just, do whatever they ask us to. We do check and make sure it's legally sound. And then another part, which is very important, because we know we are in this situation where we have to hand out data, we try to minimize data. So we do not ask for your phone number when you register a Tuta Nota account, a Tuta mail account. We do not ask for your name. You can simply just put in an email address and a password and be done. And then, of course, we do not have this kind of data to hand out.
Yeah, that's always a good way of handling it, right? If you don't have the data, there's not much to give out. Now, a quick follow-up question, and when I feel like we're doing good on time, we're never doing good on time. But anyways, I'll still ask this because I'm interested. So if you give out encrypted data about some individual that the government wants to look into, what does that mean on their side? Is it how easy it is to crack something like this?
Well, before we had quantum encryption, they could crack this data now if they have a quantum computer. Now that we have quantum encryption, I think it will be impossible for them to crack it. But on the transparency side, for now, the post-quantum encryption only works for new accounts. So if you are a current Tuta user or have been a current Tuta user before this release, you still have the old encryption, so to say. But we are rolling out this release also to existing users. Of course, it's just a matter of weeks now, and then everybody should have quantum safe encryption. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, now moving on to that philosophy part. I promised you already touched on this earlier. So as I was reading through your website and I was preparing for this call, it was very obvious to me that the sort of the philosophical foundations that underpin Tuta are the exact same as NIM, which is sort of confirmed already, but I want to talk about this a little more. So some old school community members may have already heard me say this, but two of the biggest reasons behind both the founding of NIM and also the research that that preceded NIM into mixed nets and into zero knowledge credentials were driven by two things. One is the Snowden revelations, and the other is Shoshana Zuboff's The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. These were the two factors which made the founders feel like they need to act and do something against this stuff. And it does feel like you're using the terminology, you're fighting the same fight essentially. So I'd be surprised if you said no to this, but can you confirm whether this is the case? Are you guys also like driven and motivated by these two things?
Yes, definitely. Like I said, the Snowden revelations kind of made us start the project, made us start Tutanota back then, and it has turned into a fighting surveillance capitalism, fighting monitoring online with security. And I think what is also a good question here is whether we are going to win this game against surveillance capitalism. And in my opinion, it doesn't look like right now, because Google and Meta, they are just so big and it seems impossible to win against them. But we at Tutor Mail, we are in for a marathon, not a sprint. So we are in for it long term. And I think in the long term, we will be winning. I think we should talk about this again in 10 years. That would be amazing to see what has happened until then. Because in my opinion, we are already seeing the signs that show that surveillance capitalism is ending. For instance, if you look at the basis, what surveillance capitalism is based on is advertisements. So they gather up all this data to post targeted ads to become more efficient, to make people buy products and generate money with that. But you can optimize ads only to a certain limit. And I think they've optimized it so much that people are just so fed up with advertisements that even if you optimize further, it will not return the results will not grow in line, because people are just fed up in general. So I just read the other day that Instagram is now forcing people to look at ads. And this will just make people stop using these products. I mean, what are they thinking? Just push out more ads and more ads and more ads to make more money. But yeah, privacy products are better. They feel better. They are more fun to use. So why should you stick with the old guys if the new things are just not pushing anything into your face all the time? So I think people will understand that and value that, and that's how we are going to win. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. On one hand, I totally agree with you. It does feel a little bit like late stage capitalism vibes when you see all of these ads like so like distastefully pushed in your face. I also read the same news that you're talking about now. How these companies are literally trying to make you look at ads as they are probably like struggling to make revenue that way a little bit. Although I will have to push back a little bit on another aspect of what you just said, because unfortunately, I think now that this is in place, right now that that all of these mechanisms are in place to harvest all of this information about people, I feel like it's about like more than ads by now, right? It's more about understanding our behavior to a really deep extent. This is what we refer to as a behavioral surplus. That also has an aspect of manipulation to it, right? It's easier to if it's not ads, there are like more sophisticated ways to manipulate people into doing what you want, which is in this case, of course, buying products. So I feel like since this is in place and it captures so much power and value, the value right now is in ads and ad sales, but I feel like that can just flip, and the power of having this data will still be there. So I think we will have to let's have that call in 10 years, definitely. I hope we can already put it in our calendars. I hope we're gonna be winning, but I think it will take a bit more than just that, right? So it's not like the model is dying. Unfortunately, the model is still going very strong, right? Let's, for example,
right now it is, but I like to be optimistic.
Let's be optimistic. Sorry, guys. Yes, I don't want to blackpill anybody. We'll definitely win. What I'm trying to say is that it may take just a little bit more, but we'll definitely win this fight. All of you who are in this call, right? You are participating actively in winning this fight, whether you're from the Tuta community or from ours or from both. Hopefully, you're making a change, because not only by developing these tools but also spreading the words about them and using them, most importantly, we're fighting the fight, right? This is how we show that there's demand for this kind of stuff. We want this kind of stuff, and this is how you achieve change in this world, right? All right. Well, with all of that said, my last question to you is an aspirational one. So we just discussed your 10-year roadmap, which is, I guess, the shared roadmap of Tuta and Nim, but on a bit more specific level, maybe a bit shorter term, right? What are the next big steps for Tuta on this 10-year journey?
Yeah, in terms of products, it's definitely finishing the quantum safe encryption, because we are not, as I said, we have to roll it out to our existing users. We also want to add forward secrecy, which is another very techy stuff, but making sure that the encrypted data stays secure whatever happens in the future. And then in terms of products, it's going to be, as I mentioned, the drive, the encrypted drive file sharing format. That's the next big thing that people can expect from us. Yeah.
All right, that sounds very exciting. Hopefully, I'll get to have you back on one of these calls at some point and learn more about those things once they come out. Why am I not in focus again? Okay. Now, with all of that said, let's jump into the community Q&A. I will this time start with our sometimes forgotten amazing Matrix question askers. So these you won't see in the live chat. I'm reading it from another place. I think you already addressed the one about how can we make sure that the code is code in our apps is the same as what we see on GitHub, right? So maybe let's jump over that one, unless you have something else to say about that.
No, it's just verifying the signature in the free desktop client in Tuta, and then you're all good.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one, John Smith. Hi there, Mr. Smith. Thanks for the amazing questions once again. He says that it's more of a comment than a question, but we'll still ask it. So it would be great to hear Tuta's comments. Email is not private per se, since most of the people around use Gmail, Hotmail, MS365, hosted, etc. What are your thoughts on this, John Smith?
Yeah, that is completely true. And this is also why we allow you to password encrypt emails to others, so that you can nudge them to switch to Tuta to have easy encryption built in without having to enter a password. But on the other hand, if you start using Tuta, you will make sure that your site is secure, that the data on our servers is encrypted. And if a government request comes, we will only be able to hand out encrypted data. So yes, it's true. If you send to Gmail, then Google has this data. But you can, if it's sensitive data, if it's something special you do not want Google to see, you can password encrypt it and make sure that even if you send to Gmail, it's not sent to Google. Which sounds odd, but it's right.
Right, thanks for that answer. I believe this is the last one from Matrix, also from John Smith. Thanks for the great questions, Mr. Smith. Can you talk more about real-time monitoring, TKU? I understand that Tuta may be forced to monitor users' email traffic and provide this info to law enforcement people. Did this happen in the past?
Yeah, this is a rather new regulation, like since 2 years ago, so not so new, but still, we tried to fight this law, and we were winning for a certain time, but then the legislation changed. The thing about that is we can be forced to real-time tracking if, in certain cases, it has to be like a strong legal offense that the judge will issue such a court order. And then if we do real-time tracking, then we can, of course, intercept incoming emails before they are encrypted. So after such an order is issued, we can hand out emails before they are encrypted um, in these cases, but only for individual accounts. So, yeah.
Understood. Excellent. I really like the full transparency. So you guys can go and check Tuta's transparency reports. I understand these are monthly, right? So all of this stuff and all the information that was given out is in those reports, which I think is the given the situation that you have to give out all of this stuff, protecting as much as you can, fighting back on the unnecessary regulation, and also publishing what was given out is the absolute best you can do. Now, these ones are from the YouTube chat. First question from Kidoke. Thanks for the question. So what are the main differences and advantages of TutaMail compared to other systems such as Proton? If you can and want to talk about such things.
Yeah, sure. Sure, of course.
Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, it's of course the quantum safe encryption, which Proton does not have. None has it. It's only TutaMail who has quantum safe encryption yet. I know Signal has it too for chat, but for email we are the first ones. And it is also our focus on privacy and open source in general. For instance, we have our email app on F-Droid, and we do not use Google push notifications, whereas Proton cannot put their email app on F-Droid because they are using Google push notifications, and F-Droid does not allow that because any integration with Google is not allowed on F-Droid because of the open source focus. And I think this gives you a very clear sign of what the mission is, what the goal is, because we really want to set you free from Google in all aspects. We do not take the easy way out. We do not use Google Push just to have a convenient way to get push notifications.
Quick note.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's not just about open source, right? Why the Google push notification service is bad, but also because, as it turns out, those notifications can be surveilled by Google centrally for all Android devices. So that's a pretty big deal, and there's a good reason to be very prudent when it comes to this. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's this metadata we were talking about. In this instance, you hand out metadata, and we don't want to do that. So our focus is security, privacy, and open source, and we never take the easy way out. We always development takes longer. Our we had to build our own push notification service, which took a while. It wasn't done in a day. It wasn't done in a week. But now we have a working push notification service that gives you all the information you need. So you get an email from this person on your phone, but Google won't see it, and that's nice.
Yeah,
and a big
I think it's definitely a big difference. I think actually the contents of notifications are also not safe. The content, not only just the metadata, so the fact that you got a notification at this time and that kind of stuff, but also the contents of your notifications. I believe, I'm not entirely sure on this, so please fact check me, but I remember that it's also tracked by Google.
Yeah, I'm also not technical enough about it, but I can say for TutaMail that the push notifications are also sent encrypted. So you will see them only once the phone is unlocked, once the phone sees your face, and then you'll see
Excellent.
the content of the push. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer. Now this one is a cheeky one from Alex. Thanks for the question. He says he has to ask this: is there native integration coming with NIM? Which is, I think, a very legitimate question. So how do you feel about that, Hanna?
We haven't looked into it, to be honest. Honest answer here. I don't think it will be coming anytime soon because of our long development roadmap that we already have. But if the demand is there, we might look into it. Sure.
Amazing. Okay, guys, show the demand. Make sure to tag Tuta on Twitter and all of that stuff. It would be nice to see not only that, but just in general, I would love to see NIM as the network layer for technologies which already do a lot of good work in terms of privacy protection. If you also put that on the NIM mixnet and do all the obfuscation that comes with, I think that could be really huge. Huge. There are some huge combinations such as Tuta plus NIM. There will also be something like Signal plus NIM or some other privacy preserving messaging application. That's my dream world. So I'm here to maybe we can also put this on our 10-year roadmap together, Hanna.
Yeah, maybe you can.
All right. So next one up is this one. This is a no. I can answer this for you, Kidoki. So can we pay Tuta fees with NIM tokens? No, you can't. Tuta fees are only euros and dollars, I would assume, no?
And Bitcoin, Monero.
And Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. That's actually really good if you can do that as well. Maybe some point. But you okay. Sorry, guys. Take two. So what you have to understand, guys, is that of course NIM is a utility token. So NIM is specific to the NIM ecosystem and the NIM network, right? Infrastructure operators get rewarded in NIM tokens. You can also pay for NIM VPN with NIM tokens. But for Tuta to integrate, maybe if NIM VPN will be a huge success and the network will be used by a lot of people, and a lot of people will be holding NIM tokens, it would make sense for Tuta, but not quite yet, I would say. Did I answer that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let me look for, I think we have time. We're over time already, and I still have to do the outro. So let's look for one more question. Sorry, guys. It's my bad. I should have managed the time a little better, but probably I'll never learn that. You already addressed the one about post quantum. So yeah, okay, maybe this is a good one and a quick one from Rocio. Thanks for the question, Rocio, as always. How many users do you have? How many users do Tuta products have currently?
We have more than 10 million users right now. Yeah, and growing.
That's excellent. It's really nice to.
If you plan to join, I just saw the question about a discount. I'm sorry to disappoint. I didn't prepare a discount for that, but you can definitely register a free account. It gives you already 1 GB, and you can test it out there and see if it fits. I hope that's better than nothing. I hope.
Maybe discount later, guys. Don't worry. We'll hopefully see Hanna and Tuta back on these calls. Maybe next time we'll bring you guys also some discount. Okay. No, I have to ask this. Sorry. Are you okay going over by 2 more minutes or so?
Yeah, sure.
I have one question also from Rocio for you, which I really like, because this is the big question when it comes to privacy technologies in general. This is the big question I get all the time when I talk about my work. This is the question you probably get all the time when you talk about your work. So let's get to it. Some people think that tools that provide privacy are only for criminals. How can we change that thinking?
I think we can change that thinking by actually looking into history, because legislation changes and who is being a criminal can change. So for instance, for the German history in Eastern Germany, or also during the World War II. Oh my God.
No World War III yet. Let's fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed it stays that way.
Fingers crossed, definitely. Yeah, but then the government changed the laws, and you could become a criminal really easily just because of your belief, just because, like in World War II, if you were a Jew or if you were gay, and then they could kill you for it. So given this history, you have to know, this shows you how important privacy is, because if laws can change, if it can change just by definition who's a criminal and who's not, of course it's important to keep your beliefs and your ideas private. Also, yeah, just to be sure, to be on the safe side if things change. Yeah, that's also why oppositions usually want more privacy, whereas ruling parties want less privacy.
Interesting. I never connected those dots. Interesting. Okay. I saved that in my little like privacy fact base. That's a really good point. And also in general, just systemically, regardless of the laws, right? For us, at least here in Western Europe, it's very easy right now, and it's very easy to feel safe, right? Even if our privacy is under constant attack, this could change on a moment's notice. This is not to scare you guys. It's just systemically we can't allow that. So the system should always, in a very reliable and robust way, just not allow that. It shouldn't be even thought about. It just like systemically we need to avoid of possibilities of such oppression. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of our conversation, Hanna. It was amazing to have you on. I really hope to see you back at some point. It was really nice to discover all of the many overlaps of Tuta, and also some differences. It was really nice to hear how you guys built your own presence in the privacy space and your philosophy when it comes to it. Do you have any closing remarks for the NIM community?
No, just thank you very much. It was a very pleasant experience. I'm surprised, how nice everybody is, and yeah, it's been great.
We're a nice bunch, except when people find out that I don't get to their questions, they will be upset. But they will be upset with me in DMs, so don't worry about that. All right, guys. With all of that said, you know what's the last step that remains, which is to give you your POAPs. For those of you who are new, who are from maybe the Tuta community, it's why can't I remember this word? It's a what is
Sorry,
it?
I can't help you.
Wait, okay. So what is it? What is Christmas? It's
celebration.
No, it's
holiday.
No. So okay, what is Wait, people are not helping me in the comments. Why am I blanking on this word? It's not a ceremony, but it's not pleasure. Thanks, Janice, for trying. Tradition. That's what I was. Yes. So let's start that again. Sorry for the brain fart, guys. Not snow, Rocio. So it's a tradition here in the NIM community that for these community calls we commemorate your presence here with a POAP, which is an NFT that you can mint as a participant of this call. So basically, you can go to the link that will be shared in the chat and claim your POAP, which is already there. It's nimtech.net/go/POAP. And the password will be, and this is important, this is going to be what I'm going to be leaving you with. The password is going to be noise to signal. So this is the password. And the reason why this is the password today, the secret phrase, is because as you guys know, community calls became, as you see from this one, they are not really community calls anymore. If you look around in the Web3 space, what a community call is like, they're not like this. So we are looking for a new name that covers a bit more what these actually are. So it's a bit more like a podcast. I wouldn't go as far as calling it a podcast, but I was looking for a better name for it, which is a bit more unique. Now, of course, as you guys may have noticed, there's we started playing around with this concept of noise. So noise generating mixnet for an easy way to show people what the NIM mixnet is about, or like on a visceral level to tell people what it is about. We're not sure we're going to be sticking with it, but this basically is a wordplay on the signal to noise ratio. That's an official term. You can look it up. And also noise to signal, meaning from noise we get to signal with these calls. This is the name we came up with in the NIM team. Please, if you have any feedback, maybe leave a comment if you like it, if you dislike it. Should we call community calls noise to signal? Maybe weekly noise to signal or something like that. If you like it, please let me know. If you don't like it, also let me know. And with all of that said, big thanks for everybody to everybody for joining, especially Hanna. It was amazing to have you on once again. I hope to stay in touch with you. And I want to wish everybody a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.